It's time for Saint Lucia Magazine, your monthly wrap-up.
Hello Saint Lucia. Welcome to the first edition of Saint Lucia Magazine for 2024. We shine a spotlight on the remarkable accomplishments of our government throughout the month of January across the sectors of healthcare, justice and national security, education, sports, agriculture, tourism, culture and creative industries. I am Nivalo Geist. At the top of this review segment, the Prime Minister's New Year's address. Government has sought to clear the air on the genesis of a tax bill to streamline tax laws into a single piece of legislation. The Tax Administration Procedures Bill, commonly referred to as TAPA, was circulated to select stakeholders for comment last year, 2023. The Inland Revenue Department has been clarifying some of the issues surrounding the draft legislation. Glenn Simon reports.
The Tax Administration Procedures Act, or TAPA, is a draft piece of legislation that seeks to revise, consolidate, and harmonize the rules relating to the administration of the tax laws of St. Lucia, and to ensure the efficient collection of taxes and other fees in the nature of taxes. Comptroller at the Inland Revenue Department, Marcia Vite, explained that the TAPA is currently being used by other international and regional jurisdictions. She said Antigua, for example, has been using the TAPA for quite some time.
The common parts of those legislations, like the Income Tax Act, the VAT Act, we've sought to take these and put them in a piece of legislation for ease for the taxpayer. So you will find that the collection sections of these pieces of legislation are very similar, so we put it in a TAPA. You would find the administrative parts of the legislation are similar, we put it in the TAPA. So the TAPA is basically for the taxpayer, for ease of reference, and for the business person.
IRD's Senior Legal Officer, Catherine Spooner, welcomed the media coverage of the piece of legislation, which she noted was circulated to stakeholders such as the Chamber of Commerce, the St. Lucia Bar Association, and the Accountants Association for comments. These comments will form part of the second draft of the TAPA.
So we will not be finalizing the bill until we've done this second level engagement, and thereafter we'll be putting it on our website for wider circulation.
Spooner emphasized that the new draft bill is framed to provide an important balance between the rights of a taxpayer and the obligations of the IRD.
There are a number of provisions that were not otherwise clear in the other pieces of legislation having to do with the rights of taxpayers. It also, I think, is very important to know that it identifies timelines by which the IRD and/or the comptroller should act. Failing that, the taxpayer rights kicks in. So no longer will a taxpayer have to sit back and say, I have not heard from the IRD. If we are not meeting the timeline, the taxpayer now initiates the right to act against the IRD. So I think this bill is important and it underscores the rights of a taxpayer.
The drafting of the Tax Administration Procedures Act commenced in 2020 with the assistance of an international organization. The IRD Comptroller highlighted the arduous task of putting legislation together, and after numerous internal reviews, the first draft was circulated last year in 2023.
But there is actually nothing new. The individual pieces of legislation remain. It does not replace them. So the Income Tax Act will still be the Income Tax Act, and the VAT Act, of course, and all the others, the Insurance Premium Tax Act, etc. They would remain and they will be utilized because it's only the sections that are similar that will be placed in the TAPA for ease of reference.
The Comptroller has given the assurance that the Draft Tax Administration Procedures Act will soon be placed on the IRD's website, and public comment will be welcomed via a specific email address. For the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, Glenn Simon reporting.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre addressed debate on the bill related to his government's role in moving the legislation ahead. Virgil Leonti tells us more.
Prime Minister of Saint Lucia, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, has issued a statement clarifying concerns about a draft Administrative Tax Act. The draft bill is being circulated for public discourse. Prime Minister Pierre says he welcomes the public discussion as it is consistent with his administration's approach of transparency. He praised the conversations as commendable. However, Prime Minister Pierre is vehemently denying that his administration authored the document. According to the Prime Minister, the draft bill in circulation was initiated during the term of the United Workers' Party government, and that the former Minister of Finance was the one who gave instructions for the bill. Prime Minister Pierre added that his cabinet has never seen the draft bill. The Prime Minister says his administration has been the most generous in the history of St. Lucia in granting tax amnesty. This includes amnesty on all arrears of income tax and amnesty on tax interest and penalties. Additionally, the government recently increased the tax threshold from $18,000 to $25,000. This means that anyone earning less than $25,000 will pay no taxes. The Prime Minister used the occasion to call on St. Lucians to settle their outstanding taxes by May of 2024. From the Government Information Service, this is Virgil Leonti reporting.
In another of our big stories, the reconstruction of holding cells in the city for police operations is a major investment in the fight against crime. Police Commissioner Mrs. Crisita Descats-Peleus says the police have been challenged in their crime-fighting efforts with a lack of detention areas in the city due to the 2020 demolition of custody suites. The lack of suitable holding cells, she says, pose a major hurdle for the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, and major crimes.
I remember before the demolition of what we had previous, it was easy when persons were apprehended to be taken to custody suites, and of course to assist major crime and CID with their investigations. But we do not have a custody suites. This is the challenge that major crime faces because of the volume of crime to investigate and to be going the length and breadth of St. Lucia to find a cell to keep these offenders. It's a challenge. When somebody's arrested, the officers at CID and major crime have a very difficult task because we have no place, nowhere in the city to keep these offenders. For instance, if you apprehend 3 persons or 3 perpetrators for a homicide, you will not want to keep, you cannot keep these 3 perpetrators, these 3 accused in the same cell. Now, if you have custody suites, it makes it easier for you. But if you do not have custody suites, you have to go to the length and breadth of the country to keep this offender. So having custody suites, whether it's in Fort Castries or wherever, for us now it's in Castries, it's a plus. So I'm looking forward to the completion of custody suites. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think the entire executive, and of course, the rank and file of the organization.
You're watching St. Lucia Magazine on the National Television Network. Stay with us.
One of the 8 universally recognized rights of the consumer is the right to redress. This means the right to a fair settlement of just claims. It includes the right to receive compensation for misrepresentation for the provision of truly or unsatisfactory goods or services.
Coming up in the recap, Taiwan supports the Constituency Development Program, CDP, tax amnesty, And Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre discusses plans for 2024. Welcome back. The Republic of China Taiwan donated to 2 projects of national importance. Virgil Leonti tells us more.
The National Housing Refurbishment Program and Sports Development will benefit from a grant donation by the Republic of China Taiwan. At a recent handing over ceremony, the Government of Saint Lucia received nearly $2 million towards these bilateral projects. $1.3 million will go towards housing repairs for the less fortunate, and $500,000 will finance a gym for local sportsmen and women. Taiwan's ambassador, His Excellency Peter Chen, presented the checks. Speaking at the ceremony, he said his government was happy to assist in the People's First projects. He described the gesture as more than a donation, saying it reflects his country's solidarity and commitment to the sustainable development of St. Lucia. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre praised the assistance as necessary and timely. He explained that negotiations for these projects started when he visited the United Nations and met with Taiwan's foreign minister last year.
He asked what we thought would be easier for us to get at this point. And 2 things came to mind: housing, because St. Lucia has a serious dearth of housing, particularly housing for the less fortunate. And then we thought that whereas this year is a year of infrastructure, and infrastructure is not only roads, infrastructure is houses, it's community centers, it's schools. So roads are not the only thing on infrastructure. Infrastructure is the building of ports, the building of airports, the construction of homes, the fixing of schools. All that is in the realm of infrastructure. So I asked him about housing, and I know and been constantly being told that the lower income people, then there's need to improve the housing stock.
Prime Minister Pierre said that the housing assistance will be given to the most vulnerable.
This money is going to be sent to the St. Lucia Social Development Fund, where we expect the highest levels of accountability. And I want also to commend the St. Lucia Social Development Fund for the work they've been doing so far. We insist at the highest level of accountability. We insist at the highest level of accountability from the Social Development Fund. So this money is going to be sent there to assist those who need, to assist not those who want, but those who need.
In 2021, Taiwan facilitated a soft commercial loan towards the National Housing Program. From the Government Information Service, this is Virgil Leonti reporting.
Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre's New Year's address outlined plans for economic expansion, focusing on infrastructural development, affordable housing, and key projects like the Hiranura International Airport and St. Jude's Hospital. Reflecting on 2023, the Prime Minister reported some stability in the economy, but is cautiously optimistic, warning of potential adverse threats to that stability. Virgil Leonti reports.
Prime Minister Philip Pierre's New Year's address to the nation has outlined his government's plans for continued development on past economic achievements while pursuing new projects for economic expansion. This year, the government will focus on infrastructural development, which will include major investments in affordable housing for low and middle income earners, commencement work on Hiranura International Airport redevelopment, and the completion of 4 buildings on the St. Jude's Hospital project, continued works on the Millennium Highway, and the much-anticipated global ports modernization of the cruise sector are expected highlights in this year's infrastructural emphasis.
Global Port Holdings, GPH, will soon start work on the redevelopment and modernization of the cruise infrastructure of Port Castries and the Soufrière waterfront on a 30-year concessionary agreement. The 2 ports have not been sold and remain national public assets owned by the Government of Saint Lucia. The truth is that An average 10% of SLASPA's revenue is generated directly from cruise ship operations, and it is this which will fund the development on the revenue sharing agreements. The cargo operations will continue to account for 90% of SLASPA's revenue, and this will remain with SLASPA. SLASPA's cruise-related debts of approximately $20 million will be paid by GPH.
Reflecting on the past year, the Prime Minister announced that 2023 was a good year, with the economy stabilizing and the IMF projecting economic growth this year. He says the government's sound fiscal policies generated sufficient revenue to cover recurrent expenditure and increase social support to the less fortunate. However, while lauding the economic gains, the Prime Minister cited the need for caution, as international monetary institutions are already hinting of adverse financial trends this year.
We are very optimistic about the continued growth prospects for 2024. However, we must proceed with caution as there are some downside risks. The most recent United Nations World Economic Situation prospects for 2024 states that, and I quote, "Last year's stronger than expected GDP growth marked short-term risk and structural vulnerabilities in the world economy." End of quote. The UN's flagship economic report predicts tighter credit conditions and higher borrowing costs.
Notable milestones to look forward to this year include expected implementation of a minimum wage, commencement work on the new halls of justice, reinforcing of crime-fighting measures, as well as addressing pressing social needs of the country. The Prime Minister also spoke of new legislation to encourage local and foreign investment, including capital investment in tourism, education, and healthcare. Citing truth and integrity as tenets of good governance, Pierre has signaled his government's intention to challenge and debunk all instances of misinformation.
As St. Lucians, our nurturers and mentors raised us to appreciate the value of speaking the truth. We were taught that truth is important because it forms the foundation for rational discourse, knowledge, and understanding. It is a cornerstone of good governance, credibility, and trust. We will counter with the facts the unfortunate and self-serving campaign of blatant lies and misinformation in our country from some desperate and reckless individuals. These disingenuous activities can have serious implications for our country. Our government will continue to be the stewards of accountability and integrity in public life. The people of St. Lucia deserve nothing less from the government and from all those who present themselves for leadership positions of any kind in our beloved country.
In his New Year's address, the Prime Minister called on St. Lucians to put aside petty differences and embrace unity to build a more equitable and inclusive society. From the Government Information Service, this is Virgil Leonti reporting.
In a historical first, the government launched the largest tax amnesty of any period, implementing VAT exemptions on various goods, reduced duties on hybrid and electric vehicle imports from 35% to 5%, and increased income tax thresholds. These reforms benefit low-income earners, government contractors, and approximately 14,000 citizens who now pay no income tax, reflecting a commitment to addressing the social and economic needs of the citizenry.
This government has made it very easy or easier in terms of tax. We've given an amnesty on all arrears of income tax. Never in the history of this country, never from this country's history has there ever been an amnesty on tax interest and tax penalties. And bear with me what that means. That means that if you collected VAT on behalf of the people of St. Lucia And remember, VAT is collected on behalf of the Government of Saint Lucia. And you do not pay that VAT back to the government after you've collected it. There is normally a fine or interest. This government has waived it completely. So we say to you, you just pay the VAT and that's it. Never before has that ever happened. This government has given, in terms of tax thresholds, the highest tax threshold again ever, $25,000 in terms of a tax threshold. So people who get $2,000 or less do not pay any taxation. Never before. That is our history on taxation.
News of the Central Statistics Office indicates that the preliminary report on the 2022 National Population and Housing Census is projected to be completed by June 2024. The department is also in preparatory mode for the National Agricultural and Fisheries Censuses, while also embarking on 2 initiatives that will improve the data needs of the public. More in this report from Glenn Simon.
There is light on the horizon for the 2022 National Population and Housing Census, which has entered the data processing and analysis phase, having recently completed the challenging enumeration phase of the census. Director of Statistics at the Central Statistics Office, Sean Mathren, indicated that his office is looking forward to the media launch of the preliminary census report by June 2024.
We anticipate or we're working towards bringing on board the consultant, international consultant that would assist with the data analysis and processing mid-February. The consultant will be engaged for a duration of 3 months. So bearing that in mind, we're working towards having the preliminary report for the census and the accompanying results sometime around May to June of this year.
Mathren added that preparatory work has commenced with the Ministry of Agriculture to undertake an agricultural and fisheries census during this financial year. He, however, said that a small number of enumerators are still on the ground completing the enterprise census.
We anticipate that this data collection phase for the enterprise census will extend into March, and thereafter we would move to the phase of data analysis and processing for the enterprise census.
The Central Statistics Office will soon launch 2 strategic initiatives that will position the department to better serve the data needs of the public. The first is a national strategy for the development of statistics. This is an action plan for the development of statistics consistent with government's medium-term development strategy.
The other strategic initiative is that we have ongoing is the revision and strengthening of the existing Statistical Act. We have been collaborating with the Attorney General Chambers in that regard to strengthen our existing Statistical Act, and also we will be seeking the services of a consultant to review that act before it's presented to Parliament.
The Director of Statistics, in thanking the public, also appealed for their continued cooperation in the ongoing enterprise census and soon-to-be-launched agricultural and fisheries censuses.
Because this information is invaluable as it relates to the formulation of policies and as it relates to decision-making at the highest, and also at the business level, students who also require this for the SBAs. So it's critical that the public collaborate with our enumerators to ensure that the data that we're requesting is provided.
Enumerators should present an ID card bearing the logo of the Central Statistics Office and the name of the enumerator. However, he said, if a respondent has any safety concerns about the authenticity of an enumerator, they can contact the office at telephone numbers 468-1577 or 452-4410. For the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, Glenn Simon reporting.
This is St. Lucia Magazine. When we come back, the newly constructed PI Bridge is formally opened. Mon Repos soon to be home of the state-of-the-art cemetery, and the Sufra Comprehensive School provides space for vocational training.
The general public is advised to take advantage of the tax amnesty period. Settle your outstanding debt in full. by May 1st, 2024 and get a 100% waiver of all penalties, fines, and interest. Grab this chance and receive a full waiver of all penalties, fines, and interest.
Thank you for staying with us. Stakeholders and residents of PI gathered for a handover and plaque unveiling ceremony in observance of the completion of the newly constructed PI Bridge. Kendall Eugene has the story.
Among those in attendance at the event were Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre and Parliamentary Representative for Choiseul, Honorable Bradley Felix. Addressing those present, the Prime Minister described the bridge construction as a significant milestone in the country's infrastructure development. He continued by expressing his gratitude to all those involved in the successful completion of the bridge. Reflecting on challenges faced in the past when commuting the area, he referenced the installation of the temporary Bailey Bridge. Erected with the aim to ensure that people had access to essential services, he described how the structure had served its purpose well.
And I remember the critics, as usual, making a fun out of it when we bought these Bailey Bridges as Minister of Infrastructure. We bought the Bailey Bridges, and then it was also a joke because no one believed that a bridge could go up in a few days.
Parliamentary Representative for Choiseul, Honorable Bradley Felix, in his address, spoke of the significance of the bridge and what it represented for people of the community. He also suggested a possible name for the bridge.
So it is just not about opening up a bridge, but what we have in the community. In fact, Mr. Clifton Dudu Joseph was honored by the FRC in a very big way before and at the time of his passing. And I want to make a very bold statement to the Cabinet of Ministers and to the Prime Minister. A bold request that, normally when we name bridges and so we all try to name them after politicians, that we should consider naming this bridge after Mr. Clifton Dudu Joseph. So when people pass over this bridge, they can say they're passing over the Sweet Sweet Bridge. Dudu is our Creole for sweet, sweet, sweet.
The Prime Minister went on to emphasize the importance of collaboration between units and groups. By highlighting the positives gained by the synergy of a local contractor supervised by an international consultant, he gave evidence to the positive effects gained by learning from each other. The Prime Minister concluded by stating that despite challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, the projects were completed on time and within budget. From the Government Information Service, I am Kendall Eugene.
The Government of Saint Lucia broke ground for a new burial ground in the community of Mon Repos. Parliamentary Representative for Micoud North says this is a promise made and kept. The cemetery is said to be more than just a final resting place, but a place for remembrance and reflection. Recently, the community of Mon Repos gathered to witness the sword-turning ceremony for a state-of-the-art modern cemetery. The ceremony was attended by various dignitaries, including the Minister for Housing and Local Government, Honorable Richard Frederick, Parliamentary Representative for Micoud North, Honorable Jeremiah Nobbert, Senators Kejiana Tusa Shauri and Lisa Jawair. The significance of the modern cemetery project was eloquently conveyed by the Member of Parliament for Micoud North as he emphasized that this new sanctuary for remembrance, reflection, and celebration was not just a final resting place, but a cornerstone in the community's tapestry of memory.
This sword-turning ceremony is the beginning of what we expect to be a modern sanctuary for remembrance, a haven for reflection, and a cornerstone in our community's tapestry of memory. This new cemetery will represent not just brick and mortar, but a compassionate response to a growing need. This cemetery is a testament to our collective reverence for the departed, and a glimpse into the future where grief finds solace and respect.
The economic benefits of the project were not overlooked as Minister with responsibility for local government and housing, Honorable Richard Frederick, spoke to the project's ability to create employment opportunities and provide a new revenue stream for the Micoud North Constituency Council.
If council works well, how Mon Repos can develop around the proceeds of the cemetery. Because, PS, it's my desire to ensure that central government does not get any money from the proceeds of the cemetery. It is my desire to ensure that the councillors are responsible enough to manage the proceeds, manage the cemetery, develop the cemetery, and use excess cash to develop your community and your constituency. That is the direction in which we are moving, so that there is less reliance on central government. If the rep needs something done, councillors can say, we have $200,000-300,000 in a fund, we can use it to get it done. There would be less bureaucracy and more productivity.
Acknowledging the collaborative efforts that led to the moment, the Honorable Jeremiah Norbert expressed gratitude to the visionary minds, architects, designers, and countless individuals who dedicated themselves to the project. Notably, he thanked those who have been involved in the administration of the previous cemetery, recognizing their own contribution to the community. From the Government Information Service, I am Nivalo Geist. Staff and students of the Soufrière Comprehensive Secondary School are expressing their appreciation for the construction of a temporary wing to house various technical and vocational classes following the handing over and opening of the facility in January. Chris Satsny has more.
The refurbished building will be the temporary home of the music, visual and theatrical arts, as well as other vocations such as sewing at the Soufrière Comprehensive. The structure was rehabilitated at a cost of some 200,000 EC dollars by Hippolyte's Construction, funded through the help of the Saint Lucia Social Development Fund, the SSDF, and other stakeholders within the Soufrière community. Principal of the Soufrière Comprehensive Secondary School, Crescentia Combi, expressed the school's gratitude to government for delivering the wing as promised. She said the initiative, which came about through much lobbying, will be extremely beneficial to the technical and vocational curriculum and activities of the institution.
The arts and the skills have come together. They marry emotion with ability. And we take pride at SCSS in fulfilling our mission of ensuring the full development of each child through the collaborative effort of all stakeholders.
Speaking at the briefing ceremony, Parliamentary Representative for Soufrière Français Jacques, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, said the Soufrière Comprehensive has the noble task of shaping the minds and future of its students to be productive citizens. The refurbished block, she said, will enhance the school's ability to provide vocational training and exposure to the arts. The MP, who is also the Minister for Commerce, was instrumental in seeking support from government for the rehabilitation of the old annex.
Their transition as productive citizens rely not only on the parents, but on you to thoroughly equip them with the technical, vocational, spiritual, and scholastic tools to meet society head-on. The extension of your institution is the start of many more interventions to enable you to meet this strategic and colossal task at hand.
Education Minister Honorable Sean Edward said the rehabilitation of the wing is just a small part of the wider plans by government in its overall thrust to rehabilitate school plant on the island. However, the minister said the program that is essential to achieve this goal will require construction work during the school year and not just the periods when school is out.
So in the next few weeks and months, you will see students being asked to coexist with contractors, with carpenters and construction workers. This is the only way we can do it. We have 3 windows of free breaks in the school year. You break for Christmas for roughly 2 weeks. At Easter time, you break for another 2 weeks. And during what we call the summer break, you have a period of about 7 weeks. Those windows do not give you sufficient time to execute the programs that you want.
Minister Edwards said the rehabilitation work is coming at a cost of some $25 million to government, but said the work is necessary to ensure the comfort of both students and staff alike. Whilst in the picturesque town of Soufrière, the Education Minister and the Soufrière MP were joined by other ministry officials in a visit to the Lizzie Tang Combined School and also presented some 10 Chromebooks to the Buto Combine. From the Communications Unit of the Department of Education, Innovation and Vocational Training, I am Chris Satney reporting.
A national workshop aimed at reviewing child justice, child care protection legislation, and draft juvenile justice policy took place in St. Lucia as part of a wider OECS intervention. The Oasis project is part of an effort to tackle escalating crime in the sub-region. The U.S. aid is funding the collaborative effort of civil society and law enforcement under the guidance of the OECS Commission. The Ministry of Equity, Social Justice and Empowerment emphasized the need for implementation of policy frameworks and supportive programs to transform the youth justice system.
Civil society and law enforcement agencies specializing in youth justice are resuming discussions to enhance the management, design, and implementation of programs and strategies geared towards positive social changes for the youth. Funded by USAID and overseen by the OECS Commission under the Oasis Project, the aim of the national workshop underway in St. Lucia and 5 other OECS territories is to conduct a child justice and child care, protection and adaptation legislative review. The deliberative exercise will also attempt to select pragmatic interventions for diversion, rehabilitation, aftercare and reintegration for inclusion in the national work plan, strategy and future court registers, and consider the review of the draft juvenile justice policy for adaptation.
We really want to start pushing the implementation, and we need to get this done to get our legislative drafting happening, get our policy frameworks in place, because while we may have a law, we need the other structures around it to really implement. And more importantly, if we're going to look at changing child and youth justice in the region, we need programs to support it.
The Ministry of Equity, Social Justice and Empowerment, which has oversight for several institutions catering for vulnerable and at-risk youth, like the Boys Training Center, the Upton Gardens Girls Center, and the Transit Home, is the Oasis national collaborating partner, with an overall goal of transformation of the youth justice system across member states through support for diversion, rehabilitation, and reintegration. Permanent Secretary Dr. Shaimin Hippolyte Emmanuel says the national dialogue is opportune in the face of an escalating crime situation and other antisocial and deviant behaviors among young people.
Importantly, you will be contributing to social protection as we seek to address the needs of vulnerable populations, especially focused on our children and youth at risk. Our social protection policy addresses preventive, promotive, protective, and transformative aspects of social development. Thus, successful project development and implementation of the OECS Oasis project forms part of the social protection landscape. And you would appreciate too that the Ministry of Equity on its own do have a host of other social protective activities that we are engaged in.
The opportunity to advance and support youth for success Oasis project builds on the many successes achieved under the 2012 to 2022 Juvenile Justice Reform Project, the JJRP, and will run until 2026.
Still to come, a major development in sports with the opening of a high-performance center. In tribute to excellence, St. Lucia celebrates illustrious sons, Nobel Laureate Sir Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walcott, and Independence 45 and the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival has been launched.
If you are in receipt of an abnormally high bill, it is highly possible that you have a leak. That leak may not always be visible. Before you contact WASCO, conduct a do-it-yourself test. 1. Record your meter reading. 2. Do not use water for 30 minutes to 1 hour. 3. Take another meter reading. If the reading changes, you have a leak. Contact a plumber to identify and fix the leak at the earliest. A message brought to you by the Water and Sewage Company Incorporated, WASCO.
Welcome back. The St. Lucia Cricket High Performance Center, dedicated to cricket training and development, was opened recently. The center will focus on cultivating players for success in national and international cricket.
As St. Lucia prepares to host the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024, a high-performance center dedicated to the training and development of cricket on the island has opened its doors. In a ceremony held at Sandals Grand, the first cohort of players of the St. Lucia Cricket High Performance Center were officially introduced. These centers have enhanced the physical and professional aptitude of the players, and this initiative seeks to do the same with our homegrown talent.
On this historic day, we gather with immense pride and gratitude to inaugurate our High Performance Center for Cricket.
Chairman of the Steering Committee and President of the St. Lucia National Cricket Association, Mr. Wayne O'Geist, indicated that the focus is to establish a top-tier program which would cultivate players for success in national, first-class, and international cricket. In the short term, the plan is to expose players and staff to cutting-edge cricket facilities, technology, and high-quality equipment, and in the long term, to become the best athletes in their vocation.
Not just for the cricket fraternity, but for us as a government. Simply because I serve in a cabinet of ministers who have practical experience in being a sport administrator.
Honorable Kenson Casimir, Minister of Youth Development and Sports, lauded the efforts of the entire team working with players. He also added that development at this stage is quintessential to bringing world-class cricketers into the West Indies and arenas around the world. The St. Lucia Cricket High Performance Center is supported by the St. Lucia Kings, the St. Lucia National Cricket Association, and the National Lotteries Authority. The players enrolled in the first cohort of the HPC include Lee John, Noel Leo, Royce Paul, Stephen Natram, Tariq Edward, Tyrell Chico, Vanillius Gabriel, Jaden Eli Box, Jonel Eugene, Keon Gastor, Kevin Gassi, Zeta James, Selena Ross, McKenny Clark, Akeem O'Geist, and Kiana Joseph. The players consist of both male and female talent, a feat highlighted as important to the holistic development of the sport, according to Honorable Minister Ernest Hilaire.
For us to be world class again in cricket, we have to create structures like this high performance center. We just must.
Among the players at the launch was the all-rounder Zeta James. Darren James, father of Zeta James, was present to witness his daughter being inducted into the center.
Hi, my name is Darren James. I'm the father of Zeta James. She's a player coming up from St. Lucia, young girl. Now is playing for West Indies. She's an all-rounder, batting well, bowling. I like the initiative that came about with this Cricket High Performance opportunity for especially the young cricketers who are now coming up, and especially for the female cricketers. It is a nice opportunity.
As preparations continues for the up-and-coming World Cup, the players training in the St. Lucia Cricket High Performance Center pursue their daily lessons in a bid to become world-class cricketers. To find out more and support the development of the players at the St. Lucia Cricket High Performance Center, please visit www.stluciacrickethpc.com or email info@stluciacrickethpc.com.
Students and faculty of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College and fellow St. Lucians paid tribute to Nobel Laureate Sir Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walcott at the annual Sir Arthur Lewis Community College wreath-laying ceremony. In a solemn and dignified ceremony, dignitaries, officials, and citizens gathered at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College on the Mon to pay tribute to two towering figures, Sir William Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walcott. The wreath-laying ceremony to honor Sir Arthur Lewis, Nobel Laureate in Economics, and in commemoration of Sir Derek Walcott, Nobel Laureate in Literature, was a poignant reminder of their lasting contributions to the world. Addressing those in attendance, Monsignor Dr. Patrick Anthony highlighted the profound impact that Sir Arthur Lewis and Sir Derek Walcott had on St. Lucia and the global community. He spoke of their intellectual prowess and their unyielding commitment to excellence.
Today we gather to remember because we care. You see, we are here on a mountain where rivulets of blood have flowed. And murderers of yesterday have left us monuments of atrocity.
He further emphasized the importance of converting the one symbolic mountain of conflict into a pinnacle of achievement.
I'm saying that here, this mountain has been a mountain of battles, blood. And Derek reminds us that those wars and battles were real wars. People killed people. But we now must change this mountain into a mountain of excellence, where we celebrate woundless wars.
The act of the laying of the roofs was performed by government officials, family members, and representatives from various organizations. This, in turn, symbolized a collective acknowledgement of the profound impact that the two Nobel laureates had on St. Lucia's history. Following the wreath-laying ceremony, students and faculty of the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College exhibited a showcase of talent for invited guests entitled Day of Excellence. The event falls under the banner of the college's activities in honor of the Nobel Laureate Festival. From the Government Information Service, I am Nivalo Geist. The stage is set to mark the observance of St. Lucia's 45th anniversary of independence. A ceremony to launch activities for the observance was held at the Financial Administrative Building with an unveiling of independence activities to be held under the theme, Devant Ensemble, Building a Nation Through Unity, Resilience and Creativity. Virgil Leonti reports.
The media launch for St. Lucia's 45th independence anniversary was held on the morning of 22nd January at the Financial Administrative Center. During the event, it was revealed that this year the town of Soufrière will play host to the annual National Independence Rally and Independence Showcase. The military parade, a popular staple on the calendar of activities, will also be held in Soufrière on February 22nd. It's the first time that these highlight events will be hosted in a rural community. Anniversary events start off with the National Baton Relay, an event to be held island-wide and throughout the diaspora, following which the spotlight shifts to education, when the nation's brightest students will be recognized at the National Awards of Excellence on February 1st. The 42nd National Sports Award will pay tribute to the nation's sportsmen and women on February 17th, with the annual Independence Lecture being held on the 21st. This year's celebrations are being held under the theme, Devant Ensemble, Building a Nation Through Unity, Resilience and Creativity. Cabinet Secretary and Chairman of the Independence Committee, Mr. Auguste Degazor, says this is the third and final year that the theme will be used. Employing one of the elements of the theme, Mr. Degazor spoke of the value of unity for the maturing nation.
In a song entitled The Light, Central Lord calls on all St. Lucians to unite and join hands to build a strong nation. Building a nation through unity must start from within and can only progress smoothly if we practice this from the smallest units, including our conversations within our families, amongst our neighbors, during our commutes, at the workplace, and in our communities. We must unify our hopes and vision for a mature St. Lucia by continuing to communicate at all levels. This has the potential to ignite a clear path as we approach middle age as a nation and will help with the global vision of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals to promote an inclusive and peaceful society.
Attendees at the launch were also addressed by the Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture and Information, Honorable Gibeon Ferdinand. He says the spirit of the nation is being expressed through this year's theme. He called on the nation to embrace it.
I've heard all of the communities planning and putting their plans together and putting their programs together. And so it means that the spirit of independence, the spirit of our celebration, is being exhibited across the length and breadth of our island. And so as we celebrate, let us embrace the key values of tolerance, peace, inclusion. But as we do so, let us not forget that our creativity and self-expression can become the key pillars for nation building and national pride.
This year's Independence Anniversary jingle will be performed by St. Lucia's Groovy Soca Monarch Arthur Ale and Power Soca Monarch Imran Nudi. From the Government Information Service, this is Virgil Leonti reporting.
3 decades of the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival has established the festival as a premier Caribbean event. A major showcase of imported and local talent, the festival remains an important tool to bring visitors to the island outside of the peak travel season. This year's festival is yet again a spectacular showcase of top-tier musicians, promising an unforgettable experience that celebrates the richness of local musicians alongside their international counterparts. Jacques Hinkson-Compton reports.
In a momentous gathering to launch the lineup for the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival 2024, the Minister for Tourism, Investment, Creative Industries, Culture and Information, the Honorable Ernest Hilaire, expressed pride in the festival's evolution over its 30-year history. The event, a beacon of artistic expression, community development, economic opportunity, and cultural convergence, has become a hallmark of the island nation's identity. Addressing invited guests at the event, the minister underscored the festival's transformation from its modest beginnings in 1992 into a cultural extravaganza that transcends age and time.
This festival, over its 30-year history, has evolved into a radiant beacon of artistic expression, community development, economic opportunity, and a harmonious convergence of diverse cultures. From its modest inception in 1992, it has blossomed into a cultural extravaganza, transcending age and time through the transformative power of art and music. It has rebounded from misconceived actions which threaten its continuation, only because of its grounding in the vibes of the people.
The minister added that this year's event will embrace more host communities, turning each into a stage for an inclusive and vibrant celebration of music and the arts.
In our deliberate quest for greater community involvement, this year's festival will embrace more host communities. Each will become a stage for an inclusive and vibrant celebration of music and the arts. Community engagement has already been the lifeblood of this festival, and by extending our reach to these diverse communities, we aim to enhance the experience for both artists and attendees alike.
Chairman of the Cultural Development Foundation, or CDF, Mr. Darwin God, explained that the arts components shines a light on the courage it takes to be an artist.
The CDF does the arts component not just for entertainment, but we do it because of the importance and the value of art for our society and our community. Imagination is more valuable to the journey that is art than the image. It means we must live what we know to discover the unknown, to think without limits, and that demands determination and self-belief. The past has taught us that new ideas and new concepts are often met with sometimes ridicule and hostility, which is why we, the CDF, are inspired by artists who understand and show us that courage and creativity are brothers.
As St. Lucia prepares to celebrate the Jazz and Arts Festival, the Minister for Tourism calls citizens to celebrate the shared vision that has kept the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival alive and thriving. He encouraged St. Lucians to continue fostering the spirit of unity, creativity, and hospitality that defines the Caribbean island. Opening night of the festival will be on Tuesday, 30 April 2024. Reporting from the Government Information Service, I am Jacques Hinkson Compton.
As we conclude this edition of St. Lucia Magazine, a huge thank you to all who contributed to the production of this program, the National Television Network, GIS team, and the communications officers of the various ministries. Thank you for joining us on NTN Channel 122 and the social media pages of the Government of St. Lucia. I am Nival Auguste. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged as we look forward to more positive developments in the coming months.
It's time for St. Lucia Magazine, your monthly wrap-up.